The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.
First item is for the approval of the official agenda, and we do have some items that are on for the consent agenda. Tam, you have another pen down there?
Yes, sir.
I didn't bring one in with me. Thank you. Mr. McLaurin, do you want to bring those?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor.
Hang on 1 second. Let me say that item under the mayor's business is being removed till next board meeting, which will be August, and I think all I can see the italicized area that is under board business has been out.
Okay. The mayor just indicated that Roman numeral 9 has been deleted from the agenda, as has A under board business, and an addition of C under board business, the report from the Technology Committee. So for your consideration for possible consent items, 10D at the bottom of page 2, and then the top of the next page, E and G, under Roman numeral 11, airport business, all 4 items. All 5 items, Mr. Griffith, there you are. All 5 items under building and codes have been moved up on the agenda to right after public appearances, Roman numeral 7. So 11B, all items moved up on the agenda to right after Roman numeral 7, public appearances. Page 5, all items on that page to consent agenda. Page 6, items 2, 3, and 4 at the top of the page. And then under J, public services, items 2, 5, 6, and 7 on the next page. 2, 5, 6, and 7. All are recommended for placement on the consent agenda, unless anyone has any desire to remove any of those items for a regular agenda.
Mr. McLaurin, you don't want to put the claims document on consent agenda?
No, I do not. Alderman Davis, thank you, though.
Is there a problem with it tonight?
I prefer that it not be on consent.
Well, that's fine. It's your prerogative, no problem.
Exactly.
Okay, do we, motion, second?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Move to the next thing, approval of the board minutes.
Mayor and Board, move approval of the minutes from May 20, 2008 with the corrections supplied.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That brings us down to announcements and the comments by the mayor. I want to introduce some new police officers tonight. We have Officer Terrence Hampton, if you'll stand up, please, sir. And then we have William Knowles. These are 2 of our newest officers here. And we look forward to you gentlemen participating in our city. And thank you for being here tonight.
Let's give these men a hand for this public safety.
I'd like to congratulate Sarah Thomas. Is Sarah here tonight? She completed her graduate from the city clerk's program, and we're pleased to hear that. We'd like to also congratulate our new farmer's market has been certified by, what is it, the Mississippi Department of Agriculture, Tammy?
Sir?
The new farmer's market's been certified by the Mississippi Department of Agriculture.
Yes, sir.
It's been very successful, and I would encourage all of you, if you've not been, to perhaps participate. It's really very active. This brings us down.
If I might, just a quick announcement for the board. In your boxes, we have started the behind-the-scenes process for the FY09 budget. And in your boxes, you'll have a full list of the outside contribution requests for your review. And then on the 25th of July, you'll have the preliminary budget copy, which would include all of the departmental requests will have been entered into the format that we're used to. And then we'll start in early August with our budget workshops in preparation for adoption before October 1. Thank you.
Anyone else with the board like to have anything to say? Ed?
I was just gonna ask Alderman Cox, as opposed to behind the scenes, might we call that preliminary?
Preliminary, that
matters?
sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, this brings us down to this part of the program in which we have citizen comments. You're limited to 3 minutes. I will start bounding the gavel if it runs over 3 minutes, in which you have the opportunity to speak.
Good evening to the mayor, board, and Vice Mayor Perkins.
Good afternoon, Mr.
We have just a couple of things that is kind of fearful to the public. And that is that we don't have a just complex. And we have a lot of people that don't speak English, that we don't know, do we have a translator? And we would hate for our officers to go to a scene and person don't speak English, either sanitation department, a person don't speak English, that we're very fearful for those departments that, like, we don't know whether we have a translator or not.
Thank you, Alvin. Anyone else in the audience would like to get up and say something? Come forward.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Board of Alderman. I'm not sure this is the right place to make this comment, but if it's not the right place, I'm sure you'll tell me. But I wanted to make a comment on an abandoned and dilapidated property at 103, 105 Beatty Street. That property has been abandoned for years. And on several occasions, I've come to the courthouse, I've come here. When I go to the courthouse, I'm told I need to be here. When I come here, I'm told I need to see my alderman person. So I'm here this evening because I want to stress, how frustrated we are, the neighbors on Beatty Street, about that property that has been there for 10 or 12 years. Now, it's my understanding that that property was given to the fire department to use as practice. The fire department came out and burned it, and it's still there. Now, I think the city has some responsibility, the city of Starkville has some responsibility. That property is there, it's not boarded up, it's open. I understand that young children go in there, it's been there for years. So it's just a hazard, it's a safety hazard, it's an eyesore. And I really would like for this Board of Aldermen to do something about that property, because I'm sure if that property was next door to either one of you, you would not want it there. And we have been very patient, and I think it's time for the city to act responsibly and remove that abandoned property. It's next door to my parents' house, they're elderly, it's an eyesore, I'm concerned about their safety. And that's
Thank you.
my
Did you hear all that,
comment.
Ben? Okay. Anyone else?
Mayor Board, I just wanted to comment on the remark that the fire department was to take care of the property. That building burned in the late 80s, early 90s, and we did have an agreement to train, but that was under Chief Johnson's administration, and Johnson, I talked to him, and he was not under any, recollection that he promised that we would take care of taking that building down or anything. That is a block building. So there's nothing we can do with training. It's not so appealing to us to go inside and train using this block wall.
But you no longer train there, is that correct?
No, sir, the NPA come out with their new standards and took that away from us.
This is something that Mr. Griffin can handle, I believe, in the planning and zoning and code enforcing. Am I not right, Mr. Griffin?
Yes,
You can look into it?
Yes, both of the structures on Bay Street have been determined to be dilapidated structures, and we received orders from this very board to demolish and remove them. However, the problem has been funded, we don't have enough money to remove both of them. Y'all have actually given us orders to remove 5 structures. We put them out for bid, and the bids came way over what we have available in funds right now for this budget year to do just that.
Thank you. Anyone else like to take the 3 minutes? If not, we'll move on. We purposely moved up, thought we may have some folks that would take the 3 minutes to speak in regard to some of the issues on building codes and planning department, and we have purposely moved it up to go in effect right now, Ben.
Rick was next.
Oh,
Rico first, after public hearing.
my agenda's so marked up that I just completely went by her. Wrigley?
Thank you for having me. It'll take just a second here. I'm here obviously to talk about the Mississippi Horse Park and to give you a little update on everything that's been going on. We're really excited about the horse park, as we always are, because we think that it's a wonderful amenity to the city of Starkville. It does all kinds of things for our community. 2008 has been a success story in itself. Just like every year, we seem to see the growth. We have had 26 successful events already at the horse park. And I know if you have not had the chance to come out and attend some of those events, there's no doubt that you've probably read about them through the local media that does a great job on helping us to get the word out, and also the local television stations. So far this year, we've hosted 5 new events. We've had 3 sellout events, and what that means is that we have sold our facilities to capacity limit and oversold. We actually have had to use other people's property to house horses. John Barnett had bought the Sherry Levin place on Octok Road, and for the last 2 years, during 4 or 5 events, we call him and ask him, will he rent the stalls to the overflow, because we just do not have enough room. So we're really excited about that. In the last 5 years, we've sold out 20 times, but 3 times already this year. And we've also had 26,000 people come through the gates for the events, y'all. So that's a really big number when you think about the population of Starkville and how many people are in our community. We're excited about some events that are coming up. We just had the reopening of the harness track. So we're excited about promoting buggy, blues, and barbecue, which will be our first sanctioned race since the horse park has taken the hill out of the middle of the track. Also, we picked up some new events for the rest of the year. Go Fish, which is a junior auxiliary fundraiser, along with the Rotary Rodeo, where all of the money goes right back into the community. Rotary this year's rodeo generated around $10,000, and that went directly back into the SOAR program for literacy. We also have the world champion barrel racer. This year's world champion barrel racer, Brittany Posey Farr, coming for a clinic. And we're going to end the year up in December this year with a PBR bull riding. Also, 2009 is filling up really quickly, so we're already planning events for that year. I want to talk a little bit about national exposure. I believe that we do a good job in the local community area telling everybody about the benefits of the horse park. So we really focus a lot on national exposure because we don't want to tell y'all how great we are. We feel like you already know how great we are. We want the rest of the world to know that Starkville has the most fabulous place in its community. we're really excited because we've been featured a lot this year. The first thing that came out, the latest thing, was the July issue of the Barrel Horse News. They only picked 6 facilities, y'all, in the United States to feature in that article called Fabulous Facilities. You'll see it on the right. And we actually got an aerial shot, so we're really excited about that. We were featured in there with one other facility in Mississippi, which was Jackson, along with facilities in California, Texas, and Washington State. So, and one in Florida. So you can see that we were really excited about that too, because we weren't the largest facility. They picked us because what we do the very best at what we can do with what we've got to offer. We also were the cover of the Modern Horse, Arabian Horse, which is the working cow horse show. And we've also been featured on RFD TV, if y'all know what that is. It's a rural farming channel that is on satellite on channel 369 and also comes on some cable channels. We've been featured several times this year in different segments through Farm Bureau and the State Farm Week program, and also the Farm Bureau. Economic impact. When you see an increase in events and attendance like we've seen over the years, or we're seeing the steady growth, you're going to see your economic impact numbers just grow. When we talk about sellout events and we talk about bigger events, more events, this is where we really see an increase in that. You can see that 2007 we had a tremendous increase. We were well over $3 million, almost to the $3.5 million mark. And this year, we are already at 2.4, which was more than we were in 2006. The horse industry in Mississippi just came out with a recent study published by Mississippi State Extension Service that says that horses play a major economic impact in the state of Mississippi. They contribute $1.2 billion each year to the state's economy. And also that agritourism, which is what we feel like we play a major part in, is the fastest growing part of the future of agriculture in the state of Mississippi. So I talk a lot about economic impact, but I decided to do some examples to show some hard dollars. Last year we know we had over 40,000 people come through the horse park. If you take that and divide it by the days that people were in there for the events, on an average we had 750 people per day. If you say that they ate one time at the concession stand, which knowing our contestants, how they come and go from the facility, they ate 2 times in town. The average breakfast costing $4 and the average dinner costing $12. You can see that we contributed $12,000 just in one day to dining experiences in Starkville. You multiply that times 90 days in the community, y'all, and we put over $1 million through the restaurants here in Starkville in 1 year. Let's talk about lodging. 40,000 people in 2007. We're going to say that only 20% of them stayed in our hotels. You divide that, that's 8,000 people. You put 4 in a room. The average cost of a hotel room, and the way we got this is we went on Starkville's website and got the prices off each hotel and divided it. Of $95.29, almost $200,000 through the hotels. And that's if they only stayed one night in our hotels. Let's look at fuel. Y'all know we drive big trucks. Most of the people that come to the horse park, and they take diesel. So those people that are talking about gas prices being high, you ought to be driving a diesel truck. So you take the 40,000 people that came to Starkville for the horse park events, you say half of them filled up for fuel, because we know that 90% of our business, y'all, comes from 90 miles away or further. You take that, you put 4 of them in a vehicle, you multiply that times $4 per gallon, and 25-gallon tanks, which a lot of these guys have 2 tanks on their truck, or they might drive a Peterbilt truck that's 250 gallons, you never know. That's $500,000 in fuel that was spent just by people coming to the horse park last year through the pumps at Starkville. So what have we done to keep improving our facility? Well, we have added 46 new RVs in that cyclone fenced area. We are really excited about that. We really look forward to promoting this area for a year-round RV hospitality area for people to stay and plug in no matter what they're coming into town for. So that area is fenced off from the rest of the facility. So we really see us using that. being able to lock the gates to the rest of the facility and really promote that. We added another 50 hookups down by the barns. That's going to give us 150 RV hookups. We missed an event a couple of years ago, an Airstream show, because we didn't have enough RV hookups. Well, guess what? We got enough to get one now. We developed the future barn site for the bath and shower house, built the foundation for that. Again, looking to the future. And we also removed 65,000 cubic yards of dirt from the center of the harness track. And we used that dirt to develop those areas. So far, the total investment that Mississippi State has put back into the future of the horse park, and y'all have too, is over $500,000 this year to make us bigger and better at what we're doing. These are the proposed projects for this year. This is what we plan to do. We plan to build a bath and shower facility. You can see the diagram of it on the right. We also, any of you that have come out to some spectator events, we're going to try to put some chair back seats in the building. That's just one of the things that we want to make that's just something that we could do to make the people that come out and watch the events a little more comfortable. So we're going to look invested in that. We also have figured out, because we are short on stalls, if we take the stalls out of barn 3 and relay them out in a different direction because they're so spread out, that we can add 50 more stalls. We can buy 50 more stalls and add 50 more stalls to that barn, which will give us 375 stalls total on the grounds. And this is going to cost right over $200,000 to continue to do these projects this year. Future investment. The horse park is such a wonderful amenity. Somebody was telling me today that a Google alert came out and it was talking about Starkville, and what it was talking about was in Virginia they're thinking about building a horse park. And so they called Starkville to see how successful was the horse park in Starkville. So we know that the future, to keep developing and keep doing what we are doing, we're on a roll. I mean, we just keep getting bigger and bigger every year. So what we plan to do is we plan to have a plan, which is what we got right here to continue to grow. So our goals to get completed by 2011 is to complete the covered arena. You see where the red X is right there? The cost of this project, we are thinking is going to be around $1 million. We also are looking to build a new barn facility where you see the other red X. That again is going to be another $1 million. So it will take about $2 million, and we're working on the plans right now. So when we get the plans in, we can go out and sell the idea to find some funding to do this. We've missed several bids on bigger shows. There are some facilities in the state of Mississippi that are bigger, but they don't have to offer what we have to offer. People like security. They like to be able to come here and let their children, turn their children loose, basically, and roam the grounds and feel comfortable because it is a safe, secure environment. And that's where even the bigger facilities that you would think we would be competing against, we actually have the leg up on them because we have something to offer that they don't have to offer, which is security. If we can get this done by 2011, it's Mississippi's turn to host the regional 4-H horse show. Every year it goes to a different state. Well, Jackson can't host it in 2011 because they have an event, so the only other facility they could go to would be Tunica, Mississippi. And we certainly don't want 1,000 children, plus their families, going to Tunica, Mississippi when we have the opportunity to get them in Starkville and keep them here for a week. I am requesting support this year, again in the amount of $70,000, not just for the operations, but also to continue the facility, to continue to expand it, and to continue to do what we do for the city of Starkville. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Well, just to point quickly,
Okay.
as part of that contribution, you mentioned a lot about the economic impact and how the city has chosen to fund the horse park is out of our 2% food and beverage tax. So in
Right.
a way, we're reinvesting those dollars that are coming in from these out-of-town visitors and horse
Exactly.
enthusiasts, and then we reinvest back in the horse park, and we expect that will continue to increase. And of course, our 2% taxes have done a tremendous job there. So I just wanted to make that point that we fund the horse park historically from our economic development 2% monies.
Right, and that was why I thought it was important this year, not just to show the economic impact, but actually show the direct dollars that when people come to our community, they spend, with the food. I just picked a couple of topics. We could have picked a lot of different ones, but I thought that was important to show that, the actual dollars that they spend when they come here. We do appreciate it.
Sure don't want those 4-H'ers to go to Tunica and lose the family farm, do we?
Well, I mean, I just see it as an opportunity, a selling opportunity, because we would love for them to come here. And of course, that would just be the first thing, because it's people from all over the country. And, that would just be the first of many shows that we would go out and we would get. If we had it here, I'm going to go get the business. I mean, I can look you in the eye and tell you if I had something to sell, I can go get it. We have a proven track record to be successful in that area. And, I don't plan for the horse park to be anything but successful. Because when we go out and do this, we think we're a direct reflection of everybody in this community. And we're excited to say that when people come there and they are so impressed, that it just gives a great name for the city of Starkville, Oklahoma County, and the City State University.
Thank you. This
Thank you.
board appreciates your enthusiasm.
Well, thank you.
What's your next event?
When's your next event?
September.
Now, I have one little question to ask you.
Yes, sir.
I see where you spiked in 2007.
Right.
And is this just up to this point in 2008?
Yes, sir. We still have half the year to go.
Okay, good.
So we're at 2.4 million, just January through June. So you'll see another significant increase in the events. We've already had 26,000 people, come to those
Yeah.
events, and that's where you see that and the number of days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben, I think it's your time now. I think we moved up building codes and everything right behind this public appearance.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I didn't realize there was Don't you have a lot more events in the fall, Rick? Don't you have a lot of your events in the fall? Yes, don't you have a lot of your events in the fall?
Yes, sir. In the middle of the summer months, right in the middle of the summer, is when we slow down.
Yeah.
But that gives us the
Begins to pick
opportunity
up
to.
August, September, October.
Presentation report.
Good luck with it,
Presentation report.
Mr.
All
Mayor,
right.
don't forget
Dan?
about the animal control ordinance.
we're gonna go back to that.
Okay, I know it's crazy. Okay.
Go back to what?
Animal control public hearing.
Yeah.
I thought I was after that, but,
No,
okay.
right after her appearance.
Well, after Ms. Brickley, I thought I was after the animal control. Okay, I'm sorry.
Go.
Go.
Okay. Mr. Mayor and Board, the first item this evening from the Planning and Zoning Commission is RZ 08-11, which is a request by Mr. David Court for a zoning change from R1 Single Family to C2 General Business. The subject property is located at the southeastern corner of Pat Station Road and Highway 12 extended in Ward 5. Property consists of 2 parcels of land totaling approximately 7.79 acres. The rezoning is requested for a proposed hotel development. 5 property owners of record within 160 feet of the subject property were notified directly by mail of the request. Public hearing notice was published in the Starkville Daily News on Thursday, June 19th, and a placard was also posted at the property concurrent with this notice. One area property owner voiced his support of the request during the public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval based on changing conditions in the area.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the zoning change from R1 to C2 for this southeastern corner of Pat Station Road and Highway 12 extended due to changing conditions. And this is one of those changing conditions you can certainly see and appreciate there on the new bypass area.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. It passes. Ben, go ahead.
The next item is C08-04, which is a request by Dr. Walt Starr to allow residential accessory use to his dental clinic located in a C2 general business zoning district. The subject property is located at 974 Highway 12 Extended on the eastern side of the roadway across from the Hilton Garden Inn, currently under construction in Ward 5. Dr. Starr maintains a private practice in both Starkville and Columbus and travels back and forth between the two dental clinics. The C2 zoning allows transient or temporary residential uses such as a hotel, and Dr. Starr's intended use for occasional overnight stays could be classified as such, but this is an accessory use to the dental clinic. Due to the design of the building, the second floor space has direct access to the exterior and could easily be converted into an accessory apartment for residential use in the future. 4 property owners of record within 150 feet of the subject property were notified by mail of the request. A public hearing notice was published in the Starkville Daily News on Thursday, June 19th, and a placard was also posted on the property concurrent with this notice. 1 area property owner voiced his support of the request at the public hearing. Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval with the 4 standard conditions recommended by planning staff.
Would you go over what those 4 additional recommendations are that would be included if we approved it?
Yes, I'm sorry.
On page 3.
The rezoning one. The 4 standard conditions are: the use of a portion of the second floor for occasional overnight use shall not increase in size to include the entire second floor area space. Part of it is used as a break area and also as an office. The residential space shall be for the use of the business owner and shall not be leased to a tenant for long-term residency. Number 3, the use of the accessory residential area shall be allowed to continue indefinitely regardless of ownership. And number 4, all of the above conditions shall fully and faithfully be executed, or the conditional use shall become null and void.
Ben, was there any reason in those conditions, number 2, residential space shall be for the use of the business owner and shall not be leased to a tenant for long-term residency?
Just-
What about short-term?
Well,
Why?
either type, it's going to be used by the owner.
Or how about shall not be leased to a tenant for residency, period,
Yes, sir.
as opposed to long-term?
That would probably be more descriptive and correct.
Okay.
Take out long term.
With that change, I would move approval of this conditional use.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Passes.
Mr. Mayor and Board, the third item is CU 08-05, which is a request by Mr. Michael Cracker to allow residential uses in a C2 general business zoning district. The subject property is located at 403 Highway 182 East on the north side of the roadway across from the Be Quick convenience store in Ward 5. Mr. Cracker is proposing to build 2 two-story buildings with 6 units each along the eastern property line of the site. The existing residential structure will remain. A conceptual site plan has been provided along with other supporting materials by Mr. Cracker. It includes 28 parking spaces, a dumpster location, landscaping, and a driveway connection to the adjacent apartment complex owned by him, which allows ingress and egress from both Highway 182 and Montgomery Street. A similar request was made by the applicant in November of 2006, which was denied by the Planning and Zoning Commission with no reason for the denial provided in the meeting minutes. The special use exception at the time provided no guidelines or review criteria other than a public hearing, and no staff report was prepared for the public hearing. Mr. Cracker has met the 5 review criteria for a conditional use, and they are: number 1, land use compatibility. The applicant owns 2 apartment buildings adjacent to the west, and there is a single-family residence to the north which is utilized as a rental property. Number 2, sufficient site size. The applicant has shown on the conceptual site plan that he can accommodate the proposed development without seeking any modifications or variances. Number 3, mitigative techniques. The applicant has located the proposed buildings along the easternmost property line adjacent to the auto repair shop and towards the street in alignment with the existing house. Landscaping and a fence are proposed along the northern property lines. Number 4, hazardous waste. None are to be used, stored, or generated at the site. Number 5, compliance with applicable laws and ordinances. The applicant has stated that he will not seek any variances or modifications for the development. The city has adopted a stormwater ordinance to protect against runoff onto adjacent properties. A full site plan review will be conducted by the city's Development Review Committee staff to ensure compliance with all city codes. The applicant's desire to redevelop the property for multifamily residential use generally conforms to the city's comprehensive plan policies encouraging compact infill residential development to help eliminate sprawl and also encouraging redevelopment along the Highway 182 corridor. 10 property owners of record within 150 feet of the subject property were notified directly by mail of the request. A public hearing notice was published in the Starkville Daily News on Thursday, June 19th, and a placard was also posted on the property concurrent with this notice. Written comments opposing the conditional use from Mark and Heather Schenkel and Mr. Denzel Causey have been provided in your packets. The Schenkels presented a PowerPoint presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission at the public hearing. Altogether, 5 area property owners expressed their opposition to the request at the public hearing. Traffic concerns have been addressed, and I should note that Highway 182 is a state-maintained roadway with 11,000 trips per day between Jackson Street and Old West Point Road. Drainage issues have also been raised, and I would add that there are numerous drainage problems throughout the city and that most of these problems have occurred because prior to 2007, there were no stormwater regulations in place. All new development must now conform to the city's stormwater ordinance. Other concerns raised by the area property owners were regarding noise, trash, indecent exposure, and property values. After a motion to deny the request failed, a motion was made to approve the request by a 4-3 vote with 7 standard conditions recommended by planning staff, of which condition number 5 was revised to extend a proposed fence along the northern property lines all the way to the North Montgomery Street right-of-way.
Did I hear indecent exposure?
Yes, sir.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll open it up for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, this is an issue that obviously has generated a lot of concern from the neighbors and is the type of development when you talk about residential uses in a C2 that just a couple years ago I would have said was an appropriate development for in most cases, but upon review and with additional board ordinance for the conditional use that we passed last year, there are 5 criteria that are required if we were to approve a condition, much like previously if we were to approve an exception. And in this case, you have land use compatibility, sufficient site size and adequate site specifications, proper use of mitigative techniques, hazardous waste, and compliance with applicable laws. And I think with regard to the first 3 that the applicant has not sustained their burden to justify a conditional use exception. That said, I believe that there is an opportunity for a development to occur here, and I've heard from neighbors that would have said that they're willing to continue to try to work and find an appropriate use for what is zoned currently C2, and that being most consistent with what is existing on Highway 82. And because I don't find that we've met the necessary criteria, I'd move to deny the request.
Second.
We have a motion to deny this request. Other members like to say anything?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Richard, did you want to say something?
Well, I was gonna ask if there were any, people here today that wanted to speak to this, because I didn't want to just move forward with it unless there was some public comments or anything anyone wanted to make.
I think there's several people that were here that were at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
We have a motion and a second. We'll vote. All those in favor, raise your hands of the motion. All those opposed? Guess Mike could go over and build you a 10-story office building.
What's next, Ms. Griffin?
Next item is FP 08-09, which is a request by Mr. Charlie Morgan for a final subdivision plat approval of Carpenter Place in a PUD Plan Unit Development Zoning District. Subject property is located south of Star Avenue and Academy Road and east of Louisville Street in Ward 3. The plat consists of 123 single-family residential lots on approximately 35.15 acres. The project received PUD approval in May of 2006 after almost 4 years of review. The density calculation for the final plat is approximately 3.5 dwelling units per acre, while a PUD allows greater than 15. A 50-foot undisturbed buffer has been left along the southern property lines with the Timber Cove subdivision. A fence and tree plantings along the eastern and northern property lines is being reconsidered by the adjacent homeowner associations since an undisturbed buffer area has been left due to the relocation of the electrical utilities along the roadways. A copy of the restrictive covenants has been included with the staff report. An indemnification clause holding the city harmless will be required to be included in those restrictive covenants. All streets, utilities, and easements are to be dedicated to the city. City staff members have recommended approval of the final plat as proposed with extra conditions of approval, which will be required prior to signing of the final plat. Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the final subdivision plat with the 12 conditions proposed in the staff report. And I might add, they're pretty specific to specific items for the plat, for the development. They're pretty self-explanatory.
Mr. Mayor and Board, I would move approval of the final plat for Carpenter Place subdivision, a planned unit development located as has been indicated. This, of course, subject to the application of the 12 staff recommendations and inclusion in the minutes of the amended agreement between Academy Place and Charlie Morgan. You will recall that when the planned unit development was originally approved, there was an agreement entered on the minutes between Academy Place. The amended agreement between the two entities reflects the changes that Mr. Griffith has talked about, and everybody is satisfied and so forth. So with those conditions, I would move approval.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Ms. Tyndall, I have a hard copy and can send you an electronic copy of that agreement.
Mr. Mayor, the last P&Z item this evening is PP 08-02, which is a request by Mr. Jeremy Tabor for a preliminary condominium plat approval of Bell Grove in an R5 multifamily high-density zoning district. The subject property is located at 613 South Montgomery Street on the eastern side of the roadway at the intersection of Yellow Jacket Drive and Ward 4. The proposed plat consists of 60 dwelling units on approximately 5.23 acres of land. The R5 zoning is classified as high-density residential, which allows up to 15 dwelling units per acre. The proposed density calculation for the site would be approximately 11.5 dwelling units per acre. The proposed preliminary plat meets all the requirements for the R5 zoning district. A variance for the rear setbacks of buildings 16 and 17 was approved by the Board of Adjustment and Appeals on April 24, 2008. The internal roadways are private and will not be dedicated to the city. City staff members have recommended approval of the preliminary condominium plat. Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the preliminary plat with the 3 standard conditions proposed in the staff report.
Ben, and there were 3 recommendations, correct?
Yes.
Provided here. Okay. Having looked at it, I'll just move approval of the preliminary plat with the 3 staff conditions provided.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Board has private.
Okay, Ben, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This brings us back to the public hearing. This is the first public hearing for repeal and replacement of the animal control ordinance. Ms. Brewer, make a few points on this, please.
Mayor and Board, you have in your packet the current animal control ordinance and the proposed animal control ordinance, which has been changed, and I will point out those modifications. It came to our attention via Judge Ishii and our administrative hearing officer that the animal control ordinance, as it stands right now, discusses the criminal nature of the ordinance rather than allowing for administrative hearings on violations of the ordinance. And so we've gone toward making that comply or comport with the administrative hearing officer ordinance. The first item, page 1, the word treatment has been added to the title. It was the control and treatment of animals, and treatment was added. Then if you will move to page, it's fairly deep into it before we get to more. There's italicized language on page 9, I'm sorry.
9.
that shows under Section 9 the penalties, which allows for state statute or an administrative offense subject to administrative hearing process. You'll see that there's italicized language in Section A and B, or Parts A and B under Section 9. Then if you'll move over to page 10, there's an additional section in italics under Section 10 of E. The entire item discusses the additional expenses incurred by the city in the implementation and enforcement of the ordinance. And the example provided is that if we, say, rescue a pet, and this happened, and that's the reason it came to our attention to make the change. Rescue a pet, take it to the vet, or take it, in this case, we took the Mississippi State University vet clinic, or, help me, thank you. Yes, that's what I meant. And the cost of that needs to be borne by the owner of the animal. So that was what was added to that. Other than that, the changes are simply related to that. I mean, those are the changes, and they're related to the administrative hearing process.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We have to have a second public hearing after this.
Yes, the next public hearing will be August the 5th.
All right. Does anyone like to make any remarks about what Ms. Brule just covered? Yes.
Diane Long, representing the Humane Society, and I really approve immensely what's going on with this. It's going to be much better for treatment of animals, and therefore the community will feel better. I do have a question. I am assuming, like confirmation, this does not take away the reimbursement to the shelter.
No, it takes nothing away, it only adds to, so I didn't delete anything from it.
Just feel better.
Thank you. Anyone else? I call the public meeting closed. Next item on the agenda is a report from the Infrastructure Committee. Mr. McLaurin.
Mr. Mayor and Board, the Infrastructure Committee has met twice over the last couple of weeks, considering these items that were referred to the Infrastructure Committee at the last meeting. We'll take each of these items in a somewhat different order and ask various members of the staff to comment on this. Let's start first with the stop sign implementation policy. Mr. Kemp, if you would come talk to us a few minutes about that. The committee has considered it. The committee, in that case, with a consensus of all three, recommends for your consideration approval of this policy.
Yes, sir, thank you.
So if you would highlight the provisions of the policy.
We've made two revisions since this was before you last. One was on page 3 of the ordinance. We added.
Excuse me, Mr. Kemp, the most recent additions of this are on your table, were on the table placed there tonight. So if you would take a look at this version.
Thank you. On page 3, we added item Roman numeral 8, Board Authority, which gave the board authority to add, remove stop signs at their pleasure if they deemed so in the interest of public safety and wouldn't necessarily have to go through this policy. That was added, and we also deleted on page 6, we eliminated a portion of item D from the previous policy that conflicted with some other language that's further down. Basically eliminated the stop sign guidance or applications in the areas of high speeds, and eliminated that because it conflicted with item, it's under section 4D01 that says stop signs should not be used for speed control. So we just eliminated that conflicting language.
So in summary, this stop sign policy provides the opportunity for residents of a neighborhood or area to petition, if you will, to have a survey done of a request for addition of a stop sign or removal of a stop sign, and allows a certain percentage of that area to request that as a help to the board in making a decision on that particular matter. And then by like token, reemphasizes the Board of Alderman's responsibility and authority to, in consideration of public health and safety, add or remove stop signs. I would move approval of this stop sign policy.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, Edward.
Mr. Mayor,
For a nay
Yes.
vote, Mayor.
may I ask Mr. Kemp a question while
Yeah.
he's here?
I'm
sorry.
You
No
didn't call
problem.
for the nay votes on that vote.
Pardon me?
You didn't call for the nay votes.
Well, you naying?
Yeah.
All right, you got one nay. Go ahead, ask the question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, Mr. McLaurin, I would like for, see, will you, Mr. Cox, agree, maybe can charge Mr. Kemp with the responsibility to come up with a list of streets in the city for overlay for the next fiscal year, and, we're in the budget process now, so we can properly identify what funds we can for street overlay. And, it's always this time of the year, and of course, it overlays a lot sooner this year, normally into the school season, so you think it would be a good idea to ask him, only if y'all concur, to give us a list of streets for the next fiscal year starting October, so as we plan and start our budget, we can have some type of reasonable idea, if y'all decide, as to how much money that we should set aside for street overlay. And I'm not asking for the next meeting, but
Oh, he's
sometime.
probably already doing that, Roy.
Yes, sir. Well, if
Am
he
I
is,
not
that's.
right, Ed?
In other words, a revision of the existing prioritization and list of streets and drainage projects in light of what is being done this year and any changing conditions.
Right, sure, certainly.
Along those lines, Alderman Perkins, does that
Yes, sir.
that satisfy?
Yes,
what-
sir, it does.
Along those lines, why don't you give us a report on the street improvement program that is ongoing
now.
at the moment?
Yes, sir, certainly. We completed South Montgomery portion today from Lynn Lane to Loxley Way. We are planning on doing Green Street tomorrow. We're having some issues with vehicles in the street, so if you live on Green Street and are able to hear this, we would appreciate you moving your vehicle. And we hope to, from Green Street, go to Reed Road, and that will be the last road for overlays and improvements for the asphalt. Now, after that, after the curing time, we'll come back and do all of our striping, and that will complete our work for this year.
Mr. Kemp, now on the street overlay now, even though gas prices are going up by the seconds, they are locked in on our cost for bids. So in other words, all the streets that's been approved by the board, I would think that they're gonna get it done and overlay per the board order. So is that a reasonable expectation? So every street that was approved by the board will get done per the order of the board, as approved by the board for this fiscal year?
Yes, sir, as far as we know.
So
And
whatever's in the
the
board
prices
minutes-
the prices haven't changed, and we're hoping to have them all done before school starts, which is be early August.
So whatever's in the board minutes, that's what we can expect to get done?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you did miss one street, excuse me, and that was North Montgomery. There was a significant repair done there. Just thought you'd want to
The
celebrate.
roads that we have,
Try.
roads that we have completed
sign.
are North Montgomery, Harlem Street, Hartness Street, Industrial Park Road. We've done patching on Airport Road and at the intersection of Airport and Miley. And I believe that's all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead with the next item.
Okay.
By the way, Roy, gas dropped today, the largest drop in 17 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Thank you for the report, Mr. Mayor.
17 years.
That's right, percentage-wise.
Okay. Moving next, the Infrastructure Committee considered the false alarm ordinance. And after 2 meetings, we recommend for your approval the alarm ordinance as is found in the copy on the table here. Ms. Spruill, why don't you summarize for the board the things that have been considered and changed and so forth in that ordinance?
I'll be happy to get this self.
Okay.
Mine was the older one, sorry. The changes that the board, or that the infrastructure committee considered was in the definition of false alarm. We added the language down at the end, the last part says, this definition shall not include alarms triggered by verifiable external sources that are not identifiable at the time of the response, but are determined through evidence to be an actual breach of the alarm system or external forces that are beyond the reasonable control of the system owner. And that came from the committee's discussion and listening to the folks who came to the committee to talk about the issues that they were encountering. We also added, or some language under user. User shall mean any person, and it had been just any person, and we added in there said definition to include corporations, LLCs, partnerships, or a business entity that purchases, leases, contracts for, or otherwise obtains an alarm system. So that allows for, obviously, the corporate entities to be a part of this and not be swayed by just the word person under that definition. Then under false alarms, the single user, it shall be unlawful for the origination of a false alarm from any single user. And that tracks back to your language in the definition section. And then we went into the penalties. The failure or refusal of any person to comply with the provision of this ordinance shall subject such person to a fine. Any subsequent false alarm over and above the 3 false alarms that occur within the same calendar year. And we define the calendar year as being January 1 to December 31, as in that had been some point of confusion. The 4th occurrence may be considered without imposition of a monetary fine if there is proof of remedial action being taken to remove any defects or faulty equipment creating such malfunctions. And that's new language as well, allowing for the discretion of the hearing officer to make that determination when she hears the evidence. Then any subsequent false alarm over and above 4 false alarms will result in a fine on a per incident basis for the remainder of the calendar year, as reflected in the administrative fine schedule as adopted and published by the city and interpreted and implemented by the administrative hearing officer. And there again, that makes sure that they understand that she has interpretation and implementation, the exercise of that. And that tracks with the fine schedule, which y'all should have also in front of you, from the infrastructure committee meeting of yesterday. The fine schedule, false alarm commercial is now been reduced from 150 to 75, and that's on the 4th offense. The asterisks to include the paragraph at the bottom of the graph itself, which track back to her ability to waive the 4th alarm if there's remedial action that's shown to be taken. And the fine amounts are $75 and $150 for 5th and all additional under commercial, and then false alarm residential $25 with $50 for all 5th and all additional. That element was changed in the discussions from the infrastructure committee meeting, also to include the animal vaccination costs, which were included in that. So those were the changes that were made via the infrastructure committee's meetings.
All right, thank you. In summary, again, then, with this false alarm ordinance revision, the city is emphasizing the discretion of the administrative hearing officer to make determinations given the totality of the facts and circumstances on alarms that have been triggered and whether or not they fall into the category of false alarms. At least for the time being, the penalties for false alarms and false alarms over a certain number have been reduced. The police chief indicated that as a result of the board's adoption of his recommendation some time ago about the problem with false alarms, the need to reduce false alarms, police chief has indicated that there has been a substantial reduction in the number of false alarms, which cause problems with time and resources on the part of the police department. The infrastructure committee asked the police chief to monitor, as he does this matter, very, very carefully. Should the changes be accompanied by any increase in number of false alarms, then this matter will be very quickly revisited relative to the penalty schedule. So, the committee recommends your approval of ordinance number 2008-6, relative to the ordinance providing for the establishment of fines, penalties for false alarms within the city of Starkville, Mississippi. You have the ordinance reduced to writing in front of you. If requested, I'll be happy to read it. If not, I would move approval of the ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the ordinance and the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your health care needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.
Yeah.
So do we have a motion in regard to this contract that we let him give it to the Talking Warrior Board?
I still feel leery about the time involved, 40 years component of that contract.
Let's present it to them, see what they say. They may not accept it at all.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You got that stuff out in front of your mouth. Go ahead.
You heard me the last time anyway.
Well, I heard some mumble down there.
You knew what it was.
Yeah,
You are testing me.
I am.
I know.
Move approval of the contract as presented and written, or proposal to the Talking Warrior.
Do we have a second?
And this is preliminary.
Yep.
Approval.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second since it's just preliminary.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Possibly, or?
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Thank you, Doug.
Nay. What about opposed? Mayor, what about opposed?
I didn't ask for any opposition.
Pick it up. Now you gotta do a better job.
Okay, yeah.
Better job of what?
Moderating the meeting.
Well, do a good job. We're getting
Mayor and
things
Board,
done.
move approval of the consent agenda as enumerated.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Anybody like me to read it again?
No.
No.
Hit you if you do. All those opposed? Brings us down to go into closed session to discuss